here.
Hi, guys.
Hello,
Yeah,
everyone.
nice.
Thank you for joining. It's actually a really good week to talk about managing emotions. Because
What?
you're usually the one sharing, and so for everybody to know, I moved to a new apartment yesterday, and this is the kind of experience that's a bit of a roller coaster. You think you're all prepared, and suddenly you look at the time, you're not.
Okay, share.
Well, that's basically what happened. I waited last minute because I didn't want to leave in boxes, and suddenly realized that I still had some work to do that couldn't wait until after the move, and I had to finish packing the boxes. And there's only a limited amount of hours in a day, and somehow this body needs to sleep. Whatever you do, there is a moment where it says enough is enough. I'm off. But yeah, so I had to cut it really short. And you know what happens when you don't sleep enough? I don't know for you, but I get really cranky.
Me too. Yeah.
I think most people, that's the first thing that goes, is our ability to, how is it called, regulate our behavior. Well, actually, first to regulate our emotions. So on that journey to emotions, I was surprised when I researched for this website to realize that not that long ago, we used to think that our emotions are set. Such event will trigger that event. And this is the basis, for example, for crime of passion. The reason why we have a lesser sentence in those cases is because it comes from the belief that, it comes from the belief that if you're jealous and if you love someone, then there's nothing you can do. This is the emotion you'll feel, so hence the behavior. And I don't know about you, but I was like, what? Is that the underlying theory behind all of this? And so if you guys don't know, research has shown for over 50 years now that our emotions are not coded. So an event will not necessarily trigger this specific emotion for everyone all the time, every time. Any event can trigger so many different emotions based on, didn't turn off my phone, sorry, based on previous experience, our values, how we see things, and our physiology as well. Because as we just said, if we're tired, it changes everything.
Oh gosh, it changes everything. And
so the more we know this, go ahead.
And our environment too, right? Like if we're taking ourselves out of our usual environment, we're getting into a new one, even if it's just for a few hours, so many other emotions can be triggered. So keep going. This is awesome.
Oh, no, I wanted to share. I never know, like, how does this work? Because sometimes there is a lag as well. So you start talking and I didn't hear it. For me, how to manage emotion is to first ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Being able to put words into this feeling. Sometimes it's not words, we're not really capable of putting the exact word, but being able to define with more detail, even if there's no word associated to it. And the most important question for me is, how do I know that I feel this? Because then it gets into proprioception. What in me tells me I am feeling angry? I'm feeling jealous. I'm feeling envy. I'm feeling emotional. I'm trying to look for happy ones. How do I know that I feel what I'm saying that I feel?
Are you asking me?
Rarely ask. No, it's just in general to help people. But like, how do you know? It's a really good question, actually.
How do I know?
How do you feel now?
Oh my gosh. So first of all, it has been such a long journey because there was not many emotions were allowed. In my previous world, it was all about just being there and being happy. So when I started locating my feelings, they were all over in my body, but mostly in my heart and in my stomach. Like my stomach carries a lot of emotion, and my throat too, which is interesting when I go back as a child and even as a young adult, well, even till now, when I get sick, I either get a throat sickness or my stomach is sick.
It's really interesting what you say. There is a derivative from neurolinguistic programming that is called Mbraining, that looks into, their theory is that we do not have just one brain, in the sense that there is not just one place where information is being processed. And they went into realizing there might be three locations, so what they call three brains, where information is located. And so there's what we call the big brain, the one everybody knows about. The next one will be closer to our heart physically, and the next one is in the gut. And this current branch of study is going into identifying two more, so five brains in total. And there's a lot of overlapping with the chakra as well.
Yeah.
Which are 5 to 7, I think 7. Yeah. 7. So it's. I find that fascinating how sometimes we're going back to what we call pseudoscience, and I say that with quotes because for me it's not because it's not been proven yet that it does not exist, and we tend in this part of the world to believe that there is only one way to prove things, and if it's not been proven, then it does not exist. And other part of the world have a different views, and for them, experience and observing things is also a way to prove that it exists. And when you go into Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and all of these things, they've been based on that way of thinking. And I'm all about being open-minded and not closing doors until you're sure you can shut the door. So I found that interesting to go and look and see how sometimes parallel can be drawn, because for that topic of how to manage emotions, there's a lot we can learn from older traditions than the European Cartesian. The brain is here, the body is there, it's all separate.
Yeah. When we're saying managing emotions, can we go a little bit? So managing for me has not always a positive connotation, because managing means to me telling somebody else what to do. That's me personally, okay? Where when I look at my emotions, when they come in, what I am in the process of not mastering, but learning more and more and building more awareness around is, okay, where is this coming from? What triggered it? Is this serving me right now?
Yes.
And when I was able to answer these three questions, I can then decide whether or not I release it. When I was able to, okay, I am so fearful right now, and it's sitting right in my stomach. Now, can I go and visualize and remove it and see how can I make sure that that emotion is actually not holding me back from getting what I really, or where I want to go, or when we're feeling fearful before going on stage because we don't trust ourselves, then, how can we remove that? How can we move through that? How can we lead ourselves to the other side of that emotion so it's not holding us back from doing what we want to do?
Something really interesting for me in what you said, you talked about trying to remove those emotions. I don't know if we can fully remove them. What I would advise people to do when they get to that point where they realize that this emotion is not serving them, I would add one more question. What is this emotion trying to do for me? This emotion has good intention. There is a reason I'm feeling that. What am I trying to protect, preserve? What is the purpose behind that?
So this is a really good coach for me because I didn't even realize that I said remove. We can't remove emotions. They're there for a reason. They're always there to tell us,
them.
yeah, transform, but not remove. This is what I used to do all the time. I tried to remove them because I wasn't willing to go there or to really, I just brushed over them, you know, when I was feeling anxious. Oh, well, you know, I'm just gonna get through it somehow, somewhat.
And then the risk is that it comes back, but more powerful.
Oh, it's not only a risk, it's proven. It's, you know, it's,
yeah.
It always does. It's a given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would advise, to ask that question. What is it trying to serve for me? It is not helping me achieve my goal, but it is trying to do something for me. So for example, you give the example, you give the example of stress before going on stage. There is a purpose. There is a reason. You care. You want to do your best. So usually you've worked well. I mean, I would assume the best for you. So you've worked well, you care, you are enthusiastic, you've done your best, you know your part. Then by going through all of this, you should be able to calm yourself, because you realize you know your part, you've worked, there's nothing more to do, you've already done it during rehearsal, just keep going. Smile and enjoy it. And it's normal because you feel stressed because you care. And realizing it is normal also helps releasing the pressure and tension and transforming that into something positive.
And I 100% agree. And it also, the emotions come in because you are literally stepping outside of your comfort zone. Your brain is trying to keep you safe. Because for the brain, it is a survival kind of action. This is why our heart is beating. This is why some people actually throw up before these kind of performances, because the brain is being so demanding on keeping you safe. And just knowing that the fight or flight system, that still is kicking in, regardless on how aware you are or how advanced you are, it is in us. It will always be with us, and we can find our way through that. Yeah.
And there's probably so many things going on in your head, such as, what if I fail? I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to screw up. And this is why it's important to ask yourself, what am I trying to protect, so that you can remove this negative thinking. This part you can remove. You can remove that negative thinking by refocusing and being like, why would I fail? Like, what am I thinking this way? I've rehearsed, I know my part. It will be like in rehearsal. It was proper. Of course, the problem if it is during rehearsal, it wasn't that good, but that's another story.
I think it's so important to catch these thoughts and understanding that these thoughts exactly will create what you will experience, and that with creating positive thoughts, you will then create a different reality. And I understand it may sound woo-woo, perhaps even way out there. Believe me, it has for me too for quite some time.
Also, the science behind that, for people to understand, is the brain does not distinguish between reality and what is being dreamt, what is being imagined. And the reason behind that is your brain gets information from a lot of different senses and process it to make up a reality. So when we are imagining things, it's impossible for the brain at first to distinguish, is it something that I imagined or is it something that I'm really experiencing? It comes second, that distinction between the two. When you understand that, then you understand why all these things about visualization, positive thinking is working. It's not magic. It's actually just applying what we know about how the brain works and working on that. So if, as you said, if you're full of negative thought, then you're going to work on that. Another proof of how the brain works is just look at how kids learn how to move, how to speak. How do? They observe for a certain time, and then they start trying on their own. They only start trying on their own when they've seen someone else doing it a couple of times. Actually, many times. And then they can try on their own, and then they adjust.
Can I just add, because visualization is one of the most powerful exercises,
Yes.
I'm choosing the word, that you can ever do in order to move yourself into something that your head doesn't want to believe in yet, okay? Or you're not in something or in a place that you want to be. It doesn't work just, visualizing once before performance and it's there. It demands just as much work like you put in the studio on forming your body and perfecting your plies and your tendus. It takes just as much attention and love and perseverance and consistency.
Do you remember the study that was behind it that started proving how it worked? It was a basketball team, and they put the team into two groups. One of them was performing, how's it called? Like when you put the ball in the basket.
That one.
That. They were performing that reel in the basket court. And another group was being taught how to visualize. And I'm really, really careful on the words I use. They didn't let them just visualize it. There is a specific way of making sure that will be useful. And that's where a coach can help you and guide you through that visualization strategy. And once you know it, you can do it on your own. But if you're missing key elements, then it's not as profound. And consistency, as you said, is important because they didn't do it just once. They didn't do it for it worked for, I think, 3 weeks. And after the 3 weeks, the group that was visualizing doing it perfectly all the time had better score than the group that had physically practiced. And that was a tremendous result in terms of athlete performance, because that meant you can drive performance at an excellent level, removing part, not all, but part of the physical tiredness, because you don't have to physically practice.
Exactly. Now translate that into, let's say, dancing. It would be such a tremendous relief on these like 8-12 hour days that we're not you and I, not the people that are listening, but we all know of companies and other institutions that preach 6 to 10 hours. That preach that kind of status quo, or you can only reach this point if you put in all of this time. Well, put in that time, but be smart of it. It's not quantity, it needs to be quality. And nowadays we have so many other options. I think the example that you've given is such a great proof. So many athletes that's on their daily schedule. They always visualize. Who was that?
They take into account days where you need to rest, and it's on the days that they need to rest that they use these other tools.
Exactly. And when we find that, I wouldn't say balance, but when we find the harmony from our body, mind, and spirit, that what we can give, and when we need to rest, that is, I feel, where we really, really can get into that really high performance state. And that's when, you stand in the wings and you are mind-blowingly excited to step on there, and you will be able to let go of all of your fears and the judgment that is maybe coming in. You still have
butterflies in your guts, but they're happy ones.
But they're happy ones. And
there's one scared one and a lot of happy ones.
And you can use that then to have a much more fulfilling career. And that's what it's ultimately about, to really, it's not a long career. It's not a lifetime thing that will give to you all the time. However, you can, I think as a whole, we're so much more able now to get the best out of these years than we were, let's say, 30 years ago.
Especially if you manage your emotions. And that is a hard task. So like everything, you need to once you've realized that, and I guess if you're listening to this today, you're aware that there's room for improvement in the way you manage your emotions, start putting it in practice. Ask yourself, how do I feel? How do I know that I feel this? Is it serving my purpose? And if not, what is it trying to protect me from? And the more you practice this, the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. And the faster you will shift the way you feel very quickly from something that is not useful according to your goals to something that is useful. And that's the point. You can't be a robot. You can't switch off the emotion. It may always come, but you're very quick at realizing, oh, I'm feeling this. I don't want to feel this. What do I want to feel instead? And how do I want to react instead? And then move on.
And I think that's so important. I was taught that I can't, as you said in the beginning, I can choose my emotions. I cannot choose to wake up and feel joy, which now I have learned that actually I can. It is up to me. There may be things coming at me from the outside that will temporarily,
make
it more difficult. Yeah. However, I still have the choice, and that is taking your power back and understanding that whatever is happening outside of you does not have to ruin your day or ruin the situation. You can choose how you react.
Yeah. And you make me think of something that I love about what you said is, for me, when I started that journey about managing my emotions, because that was something extremely important for me. I am the type of person who feel those emotion times 10,000, and I am not exaggerating. You really need to experience it to realize how different it is from most people. And the most important part of that journey was to understand the triggers. And at first, I avoided those triggers because that was the easiest way to do that work when I was calm. To do that work of understanding, okay, when those triggers happen, how do I feel? What do I want to feel inside? And then I made myself experience those triggers, but at a intensity that was manageable. And sometimes I do just avoid it. I'm gonna make sure I don't get in that situation because I cannot deal with it. And at first, I thought that wasn't a grown-up behavior, because where I was working, they used to say a manager cannot have a bad day. And I decided, you know what? Managers are human. I can have a bad day, but what managers shouldn't do is make everybody aware of that. And at first, what I used to do was to isolate myself on those days. And I told all my team, if one day you cannot find me, and I'm supposed to be around, like you've seen me, but you can't really find me, don't come and try to find me. There's a reason I'm hiding. And they respected it. They respected it because they realized, okay, how is it going to be useful? She obviously she doesn't feel right. She's not going to manage things very well. Let's respect that and let's move on. And I got better at managing emotions. So the timings I was hiding from everyone were less and less. And that's what I got from what you were saying. I think it's important not to think you can suddenly turn all this off. It's not easy. It will take time. But the more you practice and the more you're aware of how you react, when and what makes you react like that, you can change that into something that is more useful for you and something you're more proud of.
Well, which then, just to tie a bow on this all, really proves yet again that a dancer is not only made in the studio. It's maybe, 50%. Everything else really happens outside.
And the outside comes inside the studio. I think I would love all of us to move even further from that in the studio, outside the studio. There is no two separate life. It's just one.
I love that. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. I've missed this chat. I'm so sorry it didn't happen yesterday.
All good. We'll do tomorrow again. We'll do tomorrow again. We will do next week, Tuesday and Wednesday again. So
Tuesday and Wednesday again. So Tuesday on Corps de Ballet, Wednesday on Point to Rise.
yes, ma'am. Okay, you
I
guys.
love
Thank you
this.
for joining.